Hey everyone, and welcome back. This time on the deep dive, we're really getting into it. Artificial intelligence. Specifically, how it's changing the game across, well, pretty much every industry out there.
It's huge.
We've got reports, studies, even some firsthand accounts that are honestly kind of blowing my mind.
Yeah, it's moving fast, that's for sure.
So where do we even start?
Well, one of the studies we're looking at is from Deloitte, really lays it out there. It says about a quarter, like 25% of Australia's entire economy is about to go through some major disruption, and AI is the main driver.
Okay, so that number, that's a big deal, right? But what does that actually look like? What kind of disruption are we talking about?
Well, they highlight what's called generative AI, and that's a biggie these days.
Right, generative AI, that's where things like ChatGPT come in. One minute it's writing a movie script, the next it's like building a website from scratch.
Exactly. And it's not just those flashy examples. It's impacting so many industries and so quickly, it's almost impossible to keep up. It really makes you wonder what makes this technology so different? Why is everything changing so fast now?
It's not just the tech itself, but how quickly it's evolving. And a lot of it comes down to how businesses are learning to use this stuff, especially when it comes to data.
Data. Okay, so data is the fuel for this AI engine. But there's this term that kept popping up in my research, the data flywheel. What is that exactly? What's spinning and why should I care?
Think of it like, Spotify. Every song you listen to, every playlist you make, that's data.
Right.
They use that data to suggest new music, try to figure out what you'll like, and the better those suggestions are, the more you listen, which gives them, you guessed it, even more data. That's the data flywheel.
So it's like this constant cycle feeding itself, getting better or at least more refined as it goes.
Exactly. Improvement and growth, all powered by information.
But this isn't just about personalized playlists, right? This is changing how businesses are structured at their core.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where we get into what are called digital business models, specifically platforms and ecosystems.
Okay, so break that down for me. What makes these models different from, say, a traditional business?
Think of a company like, well, Amazon. They're not just an online store anymore. They've got streaming, cloud computing, grocery delivery.
I kind of everywhere.
Exactly. They've built this whole ecosystem around their platform. They use all that data to connect buyers and sellers, give everyone a personalized experience, even influence how people shop in general.
It's like they've become the everything store, but online.
Right.
And it's not just the giants like Amazon, is it? I mean, John Deere, the tractor company, founded in 1842, they're now an agri-tech platform. I mean, how wild is that?
It's a pretty incredible shift, and it shows that companies are realizing that just taking what they've always done and putting it online, that's not enough. They call it digitizing, but it's not the same as becoming truly digital.
Okay, so what separates those two things? I mean, what's the difference between just like slapping a website on your business and calling it a day versus really innovating in the digital world? What does it really mean to become digital?
Digitization might be automating your inventory system.
Okay, so just making things more efficient, but not fundamentally changing anything.
Exactly. Going digital is about using data to predict what customers will want even before they know it,
Wow, that's almost mind reading.
and then connecting them with products in a way that feels personal, seamless.
Like they're not just browsing anymore, they're being guided by the platform.
It's about leveraging data, AI, and digital technologies to create new products, services, even entire business models.
So it's less about replicating what you're already doing online and more about using technology to do things that weren't even possible before.
Exactly. And that requires a shift from an execution mindset to one of continuous learning and experimentation.
It makes that John Deere transformation even more fascinating. They're not just selling tractors online, they're building a whole ecosystem around agricultural data, connecting farmers with insights that can optimize their yields and ultimately help feed a growing planet.
And that's a perfect example of what we're seeing more and more of, the move from individual companies to interconnected networks of collaborators. These business ecosystems are becoming essential in this new digital landscape.
We touched on ecosystems earlier, and I have to admit the rainforest analogy is a good one. But rainforests are complex. You've got all these different organisms relying on each other. Who's making sure everyone plays fair in these business ecosystems and the whole thing doesn't descend into chaos?
You're right, it's a delicate dance. Traditional top-down leadership doesn't quite fit in this new world.
So you're saying it's not about just one boss telling everyone what to do?
The most successful ecosystems we're seeing have what's called an orchestrator.
Orchestrator, like the conductor of an orchestra.
Precisely. They set the vision, establish the ground rules, but they're not dictating every note. They're empowering each player to contribute their unique talents. Think of a company like Shopify.
Okay, so they provide the platform, but it's not a one-way street.
They connect businesses with a whole network of app developers, marketers, and other businesses, creating a thriving ecosystem where everyone can benefit.
It's fascinating how this all ties back to the data flywheel. The more players you have in the ecosystem, the more data is generated, which can then be used to improve the ecosystem as a whole. It's almost like a living organism, constantly evolving and adapting.
That's a great way to put it. But it's important to acknowledge that this rapid evolution also comes with its share of challenges. One of the biggest concerns is the potential for job displacement as AI and automation become more sophisticated.
The robots are coming for our jobs. That's the fear we hear a lot, right? What can people do to stay ahead of the curve in a world where technology seems to be changing the rules of the game faster than we can keep up?
It's not necessarily about robots coming for jobs, but about the skills needed to thrive in a workforce increasingly augmented by AI.
So less man versus machine and more man with machine.
Precisely. Think about it. If AI can handle the repetitive tasks,
Yeah.
that frees us up to focus on things that require uniquely human skills. Creativity, critical thinking, empathy.
It's like that saying, automation should free us to be more human, not less.
I love that. Because it's not just about the tasks we do, it's about the kind of future we're building with these tools.
Yeah.
And that brings us to a crucial aspect of this whole discussion, the human element.
We've talked about the data, the tech, the new ways of doing business, but at the end of the day, it's people making the decisions, right? And people are the ones who'll feel the impacts, for better or worse.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to keep having conversations about the ethical considerations that inevitably arise with technology this powerful. Things like algorithmic bias, data privacy, the potential impact of AI on our social fabric. These are questions we need to be grappling with.
It's like we're building this incredible, powerful engine, but we need to make sure we're also building the steering wheel, the brakes, all the things that let us guide this thing in the right direction.
Exactly. And that's not just the responsibility of tech companies or policymakers. It's on all of us.
Yeah.
It starts with awareness, with educating ourselves and others about the potential impacts of these technologies. It means asking tough questions and demanding transparency and accountability from the people developing and using these tools.
It feels like this is where that continuous learning mindset becomes even more important, right?
Absolutely. The future isn't pre-programmed. It's being written right now by all of us. By embracing a growth mindset, being curious about these advancements, and engaging in thoughtful dialogue, we can help shape a future where technology empowers us, not defines us.
So much to think about. I feel like we've gone from 0 to 60 on the digital disruption highway, but in a good way. As we bring this deep dive to a close, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation?
That the future is not something that happens to us. It's something we create collectively. By understanding these forces at play, asking the tough questions, and never losing sight of our own agency, we can help shape a future that reflects our values and aspirations.
Powerful stuff. Big thanks to you, expert speaker, for guiding us through this complex and fascinating landscape. And to our listeners, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive.